The next part of my acronym, so I started with remember. Remember that attitude is everything. E is for establish your credibility. So again, we're talking about how to get noticed on the job, how to recover once we've done some type of damage to our brand on the job. The E is for establish your credibility. So if you're knowledgeable, if you're competent, then demonstrate those competencies. Prove yourself, know your brand and demonstrate your brand, but most importantly, be consistent with that brand across all platforms. So that means in social media, in email, in talking to people on the job, in your behaviors on the job, you need to be demonstrating that brand. So if I want to be seen as a person who gets respect, a person who's on time, a person who is dependable, I'm going to be sure that my behaviors demonstrate that consistently. So it goes back to that R, remember, attitude is everything. Demonstrating optimism, demonstrating that I am happy to be here. I'm enthusiastic about the job, even if deep down inside it's a little bit of a struggle for me to pull that off. And then again, the idea, and I keep pushing this and I'll keep saying this, is consistency. Just ensuring that we're being consistent in everything that we do. So the S in the acronym, so we're doing respect. Remember, attitude is everything. That was the R. Remember, attitude is everything. E, establish credibility. S, succeed. Now, I know you're going to say, okay, where are you going with this? Define what success looks like for you individually. So in my book, you know I was going to shamelessly plug my book, Marketing You Be Strategic. In my book, I talk about the fact that it is so very important for you to define what success looks like for you. Hey, that suits you. Thank you for joining. It's really very important for you to define what success looks like for you individually. So my definition of success and your definition of success is likely to be very different from each other, and that's okay. And in my book, I talk about the different factors. So I call them success factors. And these success factors are the different areas where I define success for myself. So job satisfaction, how important is that to me versus economic status versus recognition on the job, all of those pieces. So I take each of those factors and I define what success looks like for me. And as a result, in defining success, it's so much easier for me to say, hey, KB Career, thank you for joining. So great to connect with you last week, and I'm looking forward to us connecting. I had to make sure I shouted you if I saw you this evening. But when we talk about those success factors, it's everything, work-life balance. So if you don't have my book, I am on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. If you just search for Kimberly A. Ferguson, don't leave out the A. There's a ton of Kimberly Fergusons out there. So make sure you have Kimberly A. Ferguson, Marketing You Be Strategic. Check it out, because in the book I talk a lot about success factors, but most importantly, how you define success and then creating an individual success plan for yourself. And so when we think about everybody's vision of what career looks like, what career success should look like, it's okay for my vision to be different from yours, but in order for me to have an effective plan, in order for me to have real goals, realistic goals, I need to know what success looks like for me. The other piece of that succeed, this S part of the acronym, is thinking about our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, our challenges or threats. Many of us know that the SWOT analysis is a tool that's used by businesses to assess. And I encourage you, when you're looking at the succeed portion, look at SWOT for yourself or another. There are a ton that are very similar, some strength-based like SOAR. Look at those as tools that you can use to really analyze what are those challenges that we face and what are those barriers that get in the way of us achieving success. Once I've identified those barriers, once I know what's getting in the way of me achieving success, whether it be me, whether it be the folks with which I deal, whether it's certain circumstances, whatever that barrier is that's getting in the way of me getting to success, if I identify it, that's key, because once I've identified it, now it's time for me to create a plan to get around it. How do I navigate that barrier? The barrier could be internal. The barrier could be me. But whatever it is, it's key for us to identify what that barrier is. That's what helps us get to that area where we can say, you know what, I am succeeding. And then, of course, the MVV alignment, the mission, vision, values alignment. So again, we're talking about how to get noticed at work, how to walk the walk and talk the talk. Well, I need to be be walking in alignment with the mission, the vision, the values of the organization. If I cannot do that, perhaps I'm in the wrong place. Perhaps I need to reassess. So walk in alignment with the mission, the vision, the values of the organization. And of course, let's start to look at setting some long-term goals for ourselves as well as those short-term goals. And again, one more shameless plug for the book, but in the book, I talk about goal setting in terms of our success factors and how we define success. So far we've done RES. P, the P is for prepare. So I just told you to evaluate, take a look at where we are, take a look at the barriers that get in the way. Well, now that I've identified those things, it's time for me to prepare, do my homework. So if I want to get noticed on the job, I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to know who the key players are in the organization. I'm going to pay attention to news, whether it's press releases, the official emails that come out. I'm going to pay attention to what is going on within the organization, because then I can speak intelligently about certain things that are going on within the organization. Understand the organizational structure. So in addition to understanding what's going on, what is the structure? If my goal, because we just talked about short-term versus long-term goals, if my goal is to be here, I need to understand what the structure is. I need to understand with whom I need to connect in order to get there. I need to figure out how to get noticed. Hey, Kathy. Hey, Gia. Thank you for joining. Pay attention. Pay attention to the expectations of management. So what is it that my boss is looking for? Even if he's not clearly defining it, and it is okay to ask, it is okay to have that conversation, but even if he's not clearly defining it, pay attention. Pay attention how he responds when you do certain things, when others do certain things. What are the things that seem to make him or her happy? What are the things that seem to frustrate him or her? And paying attention to the expectations of management is all part of that preparation. So when we're doing our homework, it's not just the research that we're doing where we're reading articles and we're paying attention to what's going on in the industry. It's also paying attention to the behaviors around us, paying attention to the environment around us. So when we're talking about walking the walk and walking the talk and getting noticed, we're talking about paying attention, preparing. So when we talk about respect, I'm going to back up. So R, remember, attitude. So remember that your attitude is everything. E, we want to make sure that we're establishing credibility. We want people to know that we are knowledgeable, we're competent in the area. Our knowledge, skills, and abilities are in line and intact with that which we're going to do for the job or a future assignment. So it's really very important. That S, I talked about it quite a bit, succeed. How do I succeed? I define the success factors. What does success look like for me? Because my definition of success and yours might be different. P, prepare. Prepare, prepare, prepare. If you are ever on a call with me, if you're ever in a session, if you're ever at one of my trainings, you will hear me talk about preparation and the power of preparation. So again, I ran through knowing the key players. Just really quickly, for those that just jumped on that may not know who I am, again, my name is Kimberly A. Ferguson. Make sure you look for Kimberly A. Ferguson. There are a ton of Kimberly Fergusons out there. I want to make sure that you have K Ferg Speaks. I'm kfergspeaks.com, and I'm K Ferg Speaks across social media platforms. So from Facebook to LinkedIn, Twitter, I'm K Ferg Speaks, KFERG Speaks. I just ran through part of the acronym RESPECT, where I'm talking about walking the talk and how to get noticed in the workplace. So the E is for engage. Okay, so if any of you are on Twitter, you will see me post things about engagement, getting engaged in the workplace. And the reason that I posted there is because if you look for employee engagement online, most of the things that you find are geared toward the employer. But I feel like it's our responsibility as well to get engaged in the workplace. How do I do that? Well, number one, I don't just show up. I don't just go there and do my job. I get involved. I make sure that I am seen. Remember, I talked about establishing whatever that brand is, whatever you want to be known as. I want to be seen as that. So I'm going to get involved in projects that make sure that I'm seen in that light. Take advantage of opportunity. So again, I talked about opportunity before. Thank you. I talked about opportunity before. Take advantage of it. Volunteer. So if there is an opportunity for you to volunteer, even if it's outside of your work, outside of your normal work responsibilities, responsibilities, but you see it as a future position or some potential for you to grow and develop in the job, volunteer. Volunteer in associations outside of your organization. Join committees and connect with the right people. Be careful about the people with whom you associate on the job. Be very deliberate in who you associate with on the job. So be careful, be deliberate. Make sure that you're associating with the folks that, again, we're talking about brand. So we want to establish our brand. We want to establish our image. We don't want to associate with the naysayers and the negative people. We want to be sure that, I'm not saying be rude or stuck up. I'm not saying that. But I am saying we want to be sure that our circle is a circle that is looked to as a circle that's reputable, a circle that can be depended on, a circle that's trustworthy, a circle that is walking the talk. So if I'm talking about it, I'm being about it. Don't forget, follow K-Ferg Speaks across all social media platforms, kfergspeaks.com. If you go to follow.kfergspeaks, you can see a quick video of me in action at a particular training that I did, as well as ways that you can follow me across different platforms. So now C is for communicate effectively. Communicate effectively. So I'm talking about behaviors. I'm talking about all these different things that we need to do. But we have to put our best foot forward in our communication. Well, how do we do that? We do it verbally. We do it by listening, because communication is not just about talking. I know right now I'm talking a lot, but it's not just about talking. It's about listening. It's about, you see, I keep saying walking the talk, but also talking the talk. So if I work in a place where they use lots of acronyms and there's certain jargon, I want to be able to use that jargon as well. So talking the talk, but use it appropriately and use it in the right circles. Body language. Pay attention to your body language. You might notice I use very open body language, open hands. The reason I do that is because it's welcoming. It establishes rapport. Think about body language. If you're not sure about it, look it up. There are certain tools. There's something called mirroring that I learned very early on in my career that works to help establish rapport. And it's just mirroring body language. So if someone leans this way, I lean this way as well, but not in a creepy way. It's not like I'm just following them, but it's the idea that I'm following their movements. I'm following their body language naturally. And for some reason, when I walk out of that interview, they don't know why they loved me, but they just did. And using tools like that, using body language, of course, our words have to match up, but using tools like our body language is absolutely key in establishing rapport and communicating effectively with people. Also being aware of our dress. Being aware of how we're dressed at work. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but it's very interesting. As a professional development trainer and going out to all these different organizations, because I'm a working professional development trainer. I'm not just saying I do it on a very regular basis. So I get to meet a ton of different people. And it's really very interesting. Some of the things that you and I might think are common sense that aren't really common sense for folks. So it's important for us to remember dress, and then paying attention to emotional IQ. How do I respond to things? How do I make others feel? Am I perceptive about how I make others feel? Many of us think that we're empathetic. We think that, but are we? Are we naturally? I go to that because I think about Myers-Briggs type indicator and how for me, my natural personality type may not lend itself to that, but I need to be effective in navigating both sides of the dichotomy in order to be effective in my communication. In addition with communication, selling yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, very, very, very simply put, shameless self-promotion. And it's the idea of me maximizing my career accomplishments. So I work it into the conversation. Not to the point where I'm obnoxious or it sounds like every time you talk to Kimberly, she's talking about all the things that she does. I'm not saying that at all. But where it's relevant, absolutely talk about your accomplishments. Talk about what you brought to the table. When I go into when I go into a meeting and I'm selling what it is that I do, I'm absolutely going to shamelessly self-promote. I'm going to talk about how people have responded to my trainings. I'm going to talk about the types of feedback I've received. I'm going to talk about the people that call me back to come back and do trainings. I'm going to talk about the national conferences that I've done. I'm going to do that. Why am I going to do that? Because I need to promote. I need to let people know, because they're not going to know In many cases, they're not going to know, especially meeting me for the first time, what I've done unless I tell them. And there's no shame in that shameless self-promotion. Again, we just can't be obnoxious with it, and we can't always turn that conversation to be about us, right? So we want to be mindful of that. And then the last part of my acronym, so the C was for communicate effectively. The T is for think strategically. Now, think about this. Think strategically. And those of you that know me, you know strategic is my word, because strategic is another acronym that I use for the characteristics that a successful career development plan should have. So when I talk about thinking strategically, I'm talking about planning for barriers. So that's one of the things I talked about earlier. I'm talking about always have solution options. So I don't just have one solution, I have options. So if I come to you and there's a problem, I'm going to have a solution, but I'm also going to have some options, so that if you come back and say, yeah, Kimberly, that's not going to work for us, I already have some other options in line. So think ahead, think about options, as opposed to just saying, because I'm one to tell you, I tell people that I coach, there are some people that are on the call right now that I tell constantly, don't go to your boss with a problem. Go to your boss with a solution. But more importantly, go with solution options. So be prepared if he says, yeah, that won't work, or these are the reasons why that won't work. Be prepared for that. And set those SMART goals. We know what those SMART goals are. We want to be sure that we're specific. We're setting specific goals. We're setting measurable goals. We want to be sure that those goals are attainable. Are they achievable goals? Are those realistic goals for me, right? We want to make sure they're relevant. So how is the goal relevant to my future responsibilities, my future goals, my big picture goal? How is it relevant to what I'm going to be in 5 years? And then finally, time bound, ensuring that when we set those SMART goals that they're time bound. So what I'd like to do right now, before I recap, I'm going to open it up for any questions that you all might have. So if you have any questions, and by the way, thank you for all the hearts, all the love that you're sending my way, and the positive comments that I've seen going through. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ernie. So go ahead, send me some questions, send some questions my way. I'd love to answer some questions for you before we close out. I know I talked a lot, I gave you a lot, but I absolutely enjoy sharing these nuggets and sharing. I mean, the beauty of Periscope is that it's free information, and I get the opportunity to connect with so many amazing people. Again, my name is Kimberly A. Ferguson. You notice I keep stressing the A. There's a ton of Kimberly Fergusons out there, so I want to be sure you have the right one. K-Ferg Speaks, KFERG Speaks.com. I'm also KFerg Speaks across social media platforms. I do want to share a couple of things while I'm waiting for those questions to come in. A couple of really exciting things that are on the horizon for me. I will be doing my Your Career Matters segment. So if you're not familiar with Your Career Matters, it's where people ask me questions about career, and I have a couple of videos online to kind of share and show you the way that it works. But people ask me questions about career, and I answer those questions. Well, I'm taking that show on the road, so to speak, and the Your Career Matters will be on WIMG, which is a Stellar Award winning, I always say that, local market station, but it's also going to be aired on Jazz on 2, it's on HD2, so there's a lot of exciting things happening, and that is with the Trenton 365. If you're not familiar with Trenton 365, be sure to follow. They do some really amazing things, and they're sharing their platform with me so that I can share Your Career Matters with so many more people. So I'll be sharing some more information on that. That's going to be happening in November. I'm also working on an amazing project, and I thought I was going to be able to announce more details about it tonight, but I'm working on an amazing project with Lisa Ascalise. If you're not following her, make sure you follow her. She is an amazing inventor and entrepreneur. So KB Career asked about my book, where to find the book. You can find the book on Amazon. Again, the name of the book is Marketing You, Be Strategic. Again, Marketing You, Be Strategic by Kimberly A. Ferguson. And you can find that on Amazon.com. You can find it on BarnesandNoble.com. I learned that it's in some brick and mortar stores, so that was pretty exciting for me as well. So check that out. You can also find it on my website. If you go to kfergspeaks.com, there's a link there to link you to where you can purchase the book as well. I saw a question and I missed it. It was about balancing work or something like that. Can you repost the question, please? While I'm waiting for the question to repost, I'll go ahead and hit that acronym over again for any of you that may have missed it. So the R was for remember, attitude is everything. The E is for establish credibility. So establish credibility. So the question is balancing work and family. Okay, yeah, I'll share all of that. Okay, thank you. So balancing work and family. So for me, I will be completely honest. 2013 is where I left full-time employment and said, you know what? I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this business happen. But I didn't do it alone, right? Because I have support. I have support at home. So for me, it was a lot easier because I had someone that said, I'm going to pick up where, in those areas where you there might be slack because you're in the office and you're working. And I had to find that way to balance so that my children didn't notice a difference, and also my spouse. I didn't want my spouse to feel neglected as well. And the beautiful thing about that is he and I are both entrepreneurs, so if there's an understanding there, he gets it. He gets that I'm going to be in the office until 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and I get it too. So, but finding that balance is really individual. It's figuring out what works in your household, what works for you. But the important thing is not to neglect those that are important to you, those that are supportive of you, because they're always going to be there. They're going to be there beyond all of this, but they're always going to be there. Next question. Any other questions? So my phone is overheating. So if any of you can hear me, my phone is shutting down. So my phone is shutting down this Periscope. Again, kfergspeaks.com. Oh,